Buckle up, it's time for a good old-fashioned rant in a very lighthearted way. So, stick around. Hello friends, and welcome to sentiMENTAL, the show where I just talk about what's on my mind. I have no idea sometimes the path in which I walk, but please come along with me on this journey. Anyway, just a note real quick. I'm multitasking at the moment and doing laundry, so don't forget this is a real laundry room. But like I said, multitasking to get some laundry done and out of the way, and doing some filming. So I hope that the sound isn't too jarring. We'll have to see in the editing process, but either way, it's crunch time, so you'll get what you get. Anyway, the rant that I want to talk about, that didn't sound right. The ranting on which I will commence. Either way, Let me start at the beginning of this story. Recently on Disney Plus, I've been enjoying the Gargoyles cartoon. I have not seen this show since it originally aired in the 90s. And this was a time in my life where I think I was just graduating high school and going out into the real scary world. So I was usually home in time from school and or work to watch it when it came on the Disney afternoons. It was a show that my whole family flocked to at the time. My father was as big a fan as I was. Anyway, I have really been enjoying watching the show. I forgot how steeped in lore it was and how well-rounded it was. It's a great show. And like most great shows, there are people out there that say it should be a live-action feature. Now, I stumbled across a few people on social media expressing this, and that's cool, that's their thoughts. And, you know, who they are doesn't really matter. But it got me thinking that why are people so obsessed with taking cartoons and making them live action? There have been very few successes to this. We'll talk about some of them, my thoughts on some of the big ones that were great and some that were failures. But I just would like to maybe dissect the human mind a little bit. And granted, I'm no expert, so this is just all my assumptions and my own thoughts. Maybe you guys agree. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think. And if you like this, give me a thumbs up. And I hope the sound's not too crazy. Anyway, I think people just can't enjoy a cartoon until it's turned into live action. Like, that makes it more reputable, more real in their own minds. Not just literally real, but just more of a tangible thing. Now, I'm going to say the comic book movies that are out there, the Marvel, the DC, the whatever, I don't have a problem with that, because as far as comics go, they started as a static picture. It just isn't going anywhere. Your imagination fills in the blanks of action. So, I mean, putting that into live action doesn't affect me as much as when people take cartoons and put them into live action, because a cartoon, in most cases, is already a full and fleshed out motion picture, TV show, whatever. It's already there in motion, and it has everything you need. I mean, I'm jumping around a lot, so excuse me. But, like, people at my work that I'm, close with, and they have really deep dork tendencies too, that I say, hey, have you caught this? It's a cartoon, but it's really awesome. You'll love the story, you'll love the characters, whatever. And they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. And they trust my opinion on things, but they're just not ready to take the plunge. And I find that sad. I mean, yes, cartoons in America are mostly made for kids. That's cool. I enjoy watching kids' cartoons too. But a lot of them start that way, but then they build into this huge tree of stories and characters and emotions that it just reaches to new heights that I don't think people realize. Or they just take it for granted of that's for a kid and they move on. So like I said, this whole thing started because I've been enjoying Gargoyles again, and I have seen people like, that's a great show, make it live action. Why? It's great the way it is in the medium that it is. Okay, let's just say a live action movie. 2 hours, 3 hours at the most. Cool. Now, when you take the Gargoyles pilot episodes that made the movie that they showed and then packaged on that really big VCR tape with, I think it had a game, that the box opened up for a game or something. Take that. Now, that could pretty much only work in a cartoon medium because of how dynamic it is. Because in that pilot, you have the Gargoyles starting in their ancestral, well, it starts now, but then it tells the story by backtracking to 1,000 years ago at their castle in Scotland. And that's the story for the most part until we catch up to the modern times of the 90s and where they are. And I just think seeing that in live action might be neat, but I think you're not going to get the respect that the material deserves by doing that. I think people won't get it or will be turned off. So you have this huge long form story done in cartoon form that shouldn't really be messed with. And I think we saw that in one of the worst movies ever made, The Last Airbender. If you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, it is a great story with deep mythology, deep characters with emotions that react to the world around them. And what we got was not even a 2-hour film that jammed everything into it, and it wasn't even the right stuff they jammed in. It was haphazard, it was sloppy, and it missed every emotional beat that the cartoon possessed. Now, you could say that from a live-action TV show to a movie, or a live-action movie franchise that they then try to reboot. I mean, it can be with anything, but there's just something about the whole psychology around people that don't respect a cartoon until it's turned into live action that just kind of throws me off. I feel sad for those people because they're really missing out on something. It's like there's people that are huge Star Wars fans, yet they won't take the plunge on any of the Star Wars animated shows. Those shows are great. Is every episode a 10 out of 10? Of course not. I mean, that's just life. You can never win at everything. But it's great. It builds upon something that we all know and love. And you've got to see, like in the Clone Wars cartoon, a bigger, richer galaxy than we've ever seen before. I mean, we focused on aliens and their lives on their planet. Now, The Mandalorian did a pretty good job with that, and I mean, I think it's just that they share the same director and visionary behind it with Dave Filoni. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm horrible at names. But yeah, I mean, I've even seen, okay, another example, and it's one that I've not seen, but like the Dragon Ball Z movie. You have to take a great, thriving, animated series and then jam it into a crappy Americanized movie. Why? I have to give super big props to Pokemon. Now, I'm a huge fan, so I'm a little biased, but they do change a few things around, and they add a few laughs that aren't really there in the original Japanese version, but they've pretty much stayed true to the course. They've released movies, animated movies. I mean, even Detective Pikachu, I don't really count that as bringing a cartoon to live action, because A, it's based on a video game, and B, because there's so many stories within that world that it just kind of worked. I mean, they weren't saying, hey, here's Ash Ketchum and Brock and Misty, and here's their story. No, you got a side story within this larger picture, and that kind of worked. And, I mean, to give some respect to the people that want to see things in live action, it was really cool to see the Pokemon in live action. But it's still animated. It looks realistic, but it's still animation. Which brings me to the whole Disney thing. Now, I have not seen all of their cartoon to live action things. I've only seen a couple, and where to start? Where did they start? Maleficent, Cinderella, somewhere there. Then they did Beauty and the Beast. I hated the Beast's design, and because that works in a cartoon but not live action. When you try to make sense out of a creature like that, it begins to not make sense. So why do it? The only one that I really have seen was the Lady and the Tramp one, and that was because it was on Disney Plus. It was an exclusive, and I really want to support that streaming service because I really believe in it and I really enjoy it. So we as a family sat down and watched it, and I loved it. I mean, they changed some things to be culturally relevant, and I dig it, that's fine. But it was a fun movie because it was just made as a movie. I also saw Jungle Book and enjoyed it. But it suffers from the one thing that I'll address with some of the other Disney live actions that bothered me. Full of stunt casting. Now, Lady and the Tramp wasn't. It was probably made for a lower budget, so it had good actors, but not to the extent of, ooh, Beyonce's in Lion King, where it's like, that's cool, but that's stunt casting. That's to get people through the door. There wasn't a need for that when the animated movie came out. It was blockbuster. It broke records. It was a huge ordeal. Disney was back. That and The Little Mermaid put them back on the map. But they didn't need stunt casting. Why do they feel like they need stunt casting in these new movies, which, for all intents and purposes, are still animated? They're just realistically animated. But it's that stunt casting. That's something that ends up happening when you do these. Like, hey kids, here's a cartoon that you all used to love, and we want to get you as an adult back in the door, and your kids, and the neighbor down the street, and the people you work with, so we're just going to throw a bunch of big names at it. Does it make it better? No, not really. It's just the world of marketing, I guess. So, and that's the thing. I mean, they're playing on nostalgia because they want to try to get the old fans in the door and the new fans in the door. But I kind of lost where I was going to go with that. Excuse me. I don't know. A lot of my gripes can be applied to anything that's being made by the puppet masters of Hollywood. I mean, it is, honestly. But there's just something that really torques me about animated to live action. And it's not just Hollywood. I mean, Japan does it all the time, where they'll take a successful franchise and turn it into live action. Now, their way of making movies, they don't care. Unlike American movies. If somebody has crazy red hair in the anime, they're going to do that in the live action. And they're not apologetic about it. But if that were an American movie, they would have to have it styled a different way, maybe a different shade of red, but the essence is still there. That's crazy talk. And also, with the way Asian cinema is, the action with the wire work and where they feel like special effects need to go is a lot different than where Hollywood sees it. I'm hoping that the live action interpretation of Mulan kind of embodies that, because we see more of that sensibility than American sensibility, because we're seeing people run up walls and wire work and just neat mythological things like the phoenix flying around. That to me is exciting. If it just looked like a cookie cutter Hollywood movie, I wouldn't think twice about it. And excuse me, that's kind of how I felt about Aladdin. It's now on Disney Plus, so I'm going to watch it because it's there, but not because I feel like I have to. I just have a big problem with Will Smith taking over the role of Genie. What magic they weaved with Robin Williams in that role, and animated, you cannot touch that. I mean, he ad-libbed a lot of that, and they still were able to animate around that manic, awesome humor of his. I mean, that's a movie that I honestly was like, why? Why? I heard it's good. I'm not taking that away from it. It might be a fun movie. But that alone really got me. Sorry, need my coffee. Now, that's just a rant. Could I have been more negative? Sure. Could I have been more aggressive? Sure. But why? I mean, we are still getting that dork content out of Hollywood in one way, shape, or form. That's cool. But I think people just need to sit back and maybe enjoy animation for what it is. It's not just for kids. I mean, using Japan as an example again, they have animated shows during primetime TV. I mean, like I said, they're still guilty of trying to make it live action. Like I said, they handle it a little bit better, a little bit different than we do in America, but they still do it. I mean, they're talking about a Naruto live action movie. Again, that's something that has been going on for, what, since 2007? And it's got a lot of mythology. It built on a very, I'll say it, a very annoying character to the point where you started becoming emotionally invested in the heroics of that character and what was going on. They did their job where the character grew and you felt it and you believed in it. It was great. I tuned in week after week online for the Shippuden version of the show when it started airing, because it wasn't airing in America. I mean, it was something that I became ravenous over because they did such a good job. Of course, you tune into one episode of any anime during its first season, and you'll probably be turned off because the main character can be annoying. But I believe in that way of storytelling. You're starting someone down here so low that when they start building season after season, episode after episode, you feel it, you believe it, and you start loving the character. And that's how I felt with Naruto. So, to jam that into a 2-hour movie without a guarantee of future movies, who the heck knows? Because if they just go with the first season, it's going to be crazy annoying. It's going to have some neat stuff in it, neat characters, neat powers, neat... I mean, for those of you that haven't seen it or are instantly turned off by just Naruto in general, it's like the X-Men. It's these ninjas, kids that are in a school learning to hone their powers. And they all have different ones and awesome ones. You got a dude that his clan made a deal with these intellectual insects that they are symbiotic and live in his body, and that's his power, to use these insects. You got a dude that can control shadows, a dude that can control sand. I mean, a dude that can control puppets. That dude's awesome. Weapon masters. I mean, great, great, great show. But you need to invest the time, and I don't think a lot of movies will do that. Especially a Hollywood movie will not invest the time. So, could you summarize this, that it's not just a hate on cartoon to live action, or is it just an overall hate of long-form TV to movie? A little bit of both. I mean, but there's just some magic that is missing when you take a cartoon, a beautiful painted cartoon that is worked on by dozens if not hundreds of people over a long period of time, and just squish it into a movie. Anyway, this probably made no sense. I may have angered some people. I hope not. I mean, I'm coming at it as, peaceful, cool dude. I'm not trolling people. I'm not being a jerk. I'm just asking some questions. And I would love to hear what you all say in the comments. So, like I said, this has been an episode of sentiMENTAL. And I hope the laundry isn't too distracting. And if you're new around here, that's not some shtick of mine of, hey, I'm working on laundry in the laundry room. No, like I said, I'm in a crunch time. I'm multitasking because I'm trying to get a lot of episodes done tonight. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And this is a topic that I would love to hear your thoughts on. Anyway, if you're new around here and the noise didn't bother you and had a good time, and you like these videos that are down below here, subscribe. And if you hit that little bell, you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode. So, until next time, everybody, keep being rad and stay dorky.